psychologically, when someone opens up YouTube, whether they're opening up the homepage or they're searching for something, the first thing that's going to catch their attention is the thumbnail, because it's visual, it's colorful, there's so many, so it stands out. So the first part is the thumbnail. And then you want to have a good thumbnail and title combination, because the brain will look at the thumbnail, and then if it's appealing, it will then read the title.
Elon Musk, he can make a statement about a cryptocurrency or about anything, and it literally shifts the markets because of a personal brand. A personal brand is so important in today. I mean, look, people didn't spend time on the internet before, which is why it wasn't a thing. But now that our lives are on our phones, now we have to kind of get our message out a different way. This is so good. The amount of golden nugget value that is in this is just phenomenal. For the people that don't click on this video, I feel bad. Ari The Creator, welcome to Thinking Bigger with Kevin Pheley.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we met at a Gary Vaynerchuk event. You were standing next to us in line, and there were a bunch of big hitters there: Drew Brees, Gary Vaynerchuk, Dan Fleischman, and then we didn't know it, but you were standing next to us, and we didn't talk for the first 20 minutes, and then you saw Carlos was there with a camera and a tripod, and you were like, hey, he's video guy. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you do and who you are?
Yeah, definitely. First thing I will say, though, is that Gary Vee actually posted a video right afterwards, and we were actually in the video, and we were actually talking to him, so you guys can check that out. But a little bit about me. So I do go by Ari The Creator, and yes, I do talk about YouTube content creation, but the main gist is that you are the creator. You are the creator of your life, future, and business, and I found YouTube to be a very powerful vehicle to help people to spread their message, to grow their business, but also just to create their own life. So just about where I started, I could start from the very beginning. I had a very rough childhood, but fast forwarding to college, I was an intern for TEDx. And the theme, I actually came up with one of the themes for our conferences, which was From Ashes We Rise. From Ashes We Rise. And so for those of you who are listening, maybe you're going through something difficult, maybe you went through something difficult in the past, or maybe you're just trying to maybe build your business, build your YouTube channel, create something different in your life, but things get difficult, things get hard, and when things come burning down to the ground, from ashes we rise. We. It's not from ashes you rise. It's not from ashes I rise. We rise. And so with that, that's always been like my theme, doing all this. And so I was in college and things came burning down, right? COVID happened and I needed to pay my rent, and I was a barista at Panera. I worked for minimum wage. But as I was working for minimum wage, I would listen to a bunch of podcasts. And I listened to Tony Robbins, Lewis Howes, a bunch of TED Talks. And it was during that time that I became very entrepreneurial. I was actually studying marine biology. And it's funny that we have these water bottles here because these are like super eco-friendly. Yeah, I was actually creating a product to make another biodegradable water bottle. I don't even think I told you that. But I took a pivot and I was like, you know what? I'm actually very entrepreneurial. And so I started my brand in my college dorm room. I didn't know what I was doing. I never filmed myself on camera. It felt weird at first, but I was like, you know what? I am the creator. And that is where Ari The Creator came from. And fast forwarding to today, I have a YouTube channel that has earned me over 6 figures. Kajabi even sent me a badge to when I hit the 6-figure mark. And I was just like, wow, I came so far from that college apartment. And a lot of people are afraid to talk about this, but it wasn't all glamorous. I moved back in with my mom after college. And I love my mom. She paid the bills. She bought the food as I built this business. She didn't know what I was doing. She didn't understand the business, but she knew me. She knew I was a go-getter. Had a very good work ethic, and so she just let me do my thing. And I built my brand in my mom's house as well. And I knew I wanted to move to San Diego because something about it, I don't know, something about the energy here. I love the beach. It's just, even I knew I would have opportunities like this.
Right.
And so that's how I got to where I am right now. And so I don't have a big audience yet, but we were talking about how it's not about the views. It's not about subscribers. Those are vanity metrics. What matters is the impact. And so what I teach, yes, is technically YouTube organic marketing, but it's not about sales. It's about being more of who you are, getting people to resonate with you and serving them beyond just YouTube. And so that is where the sale comes in. That is when you offer your course, your membership, your expertise to help someone on an even higher level. And so that's what I do.
I love it. Yeah. And a lot of people get these vanity metrics stuck in their head like, oh, I need 1 million subscribers. But one video of yours that really stuck with me, which I saw today actually, was a video that you said about like jump cuts and edits. And when people do a lot of editing in their videos, you attract an audience that, sure, they may be engaged, but they need that constant stimulation to be engaged, which means they're not really that engaged in your product anyways. And if that goes away, like, what are they good for? But when you have less editing, but a good, powerful, strong message to the right audience, it holds the right audience. And guess what? Those are the ones that pay. So most people think they need 1 million followers to feel worthy or to make money. But some people that I know that are the biggest hitters make money with a very small, hyper local or hyper targeted audience.
Exactly. And you're right. I'm not discouraging editing. You can absolutely have some edits here and there. There's nothing wrong with adding in B-roll, different graphics, different text. Absolutely have that. But if you need an edit every second, kind of like a Mr. B style, then you are attracting people with a lower attention span. And so it's better to have quality over quantity. And I have clients with close to 1 million subscribers. One of my clients has over 700,000. However, and I just started working with him, he's not getting many sales. And so he hasn't cracked the revenue code of how do I really get people to know, like, and trust me enough to want to make this investment. And I really want all of you listening to think of it as an investment. Whatever you're offering, there is no price, there is no cost. It's an exchange. You're giving your expertise, which you've taken years, all this time to acquire, and it's in exchange for money, which is energy as well. So that's the way I want all of you to think about it.
Yeah, I really like that. So if somebody's thinking about starting a YouTube channel, or maybe they've started, what are some things that maybe they can lay a good foundation with instead of putting in a lot of time and effort and not getting results because they didn't spend the time doing the foundational strategy work?
Yeah, so when it comes to that, before you just dive in and build a foundation with anything, I actually do encourage people just to go broad in the beginning. I know that's not what a lot of people say, but if you're someone who's maybe you're multi-passionate, maybe you don't know exactly what you're doing, I do recommend that you experiment with different types of videos just to see what clicks. Because Steve Jobs has a really good quote, with all matters of the heart, you will know when you find it. And so when you find your thing, then you're like, this is what I'm doing. But the only way that you'll know is if you try things, because maybe you're passionate about maybe cooking, but you try to make a cooking video and you're like, I can't do this. This is my gym. And so I recommend that you experiment. And once you find your thing, then see yourself as the expert in that and start to revolve your content around that. And that doesn't mean, like, let's say you do pick cooking, you just got to talk about cooking. You can mention you can make it a personal brand. And from there, what I recommend is posting consistently on that topic. Solve a problem for a particular person, and then you could take the steps of getting clear on your offers, making those offers to your audience, onboarding clients, all that, getting onto podcasts as well.
Yeah, right. So how do people make money on YouTube? I mean, I know that there's Google AdSense or whatever it is now where you get actual, for all the ads that are shown on your website, you get a small cut of the fee. But how else? I mean, you have courses, you have memberships, you have other things you can sell. Where would you suggest if somebody wants to make this a career and they want to get started relatively quick where they can make some money? How do they do that?
The fastest way I've seen someone make money is by offering something one-on-one. So one-on-one guidance. So think about it. If you were to consult someone, you don't need to have a fancy website. You don't even need to have a big YouTube library of content. All you need to have is really a calendar link and a Zoom link and a way for someone to make the investment to pay you. So that is the fastest way. If you are the expert in something, then you can offer that. Because think about it, you are many steps ahead of other people. And it's funny because sometimes we think of something as ordinary, but to others it is extraordinary. And so you need to think, like, how can I help someone? Like, what have I mastered? What do I know? It could be even something as simple as playing piano. Something as simple as that. And yeah, from there you can, I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. No, so I mean, really, like, making money on YouTube is,
so making money on YouTube, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So going back to making money on YouTube, there's a lot of different ways. That is the one that I've seen be the fastest, but there's other ones. So just to list them out, there's brand sponsorships. So you can get sponsored by another brand. You do not need a big audience for that. I have a friend who has about 300 subscribers, and she's getting sponsored by brands.
Right.
There's also affiliate marketing.
Sorry, what niche is she in?
She is in the like a feminine niche. So
Okay.
she has like different lotions.
Got it. So it's product.
Yes, it's product,
okay.
like hair products, skin products.
Yeah. And that
So
makes sense, right? Because
it makes
an
sense.
audience is searching out certain things to solve
Yes.
a problem, and the product can be the solution to the problem.
Yeah, so she goes to San Diego State, and she's attracting like a lot of like sorority girls, 20-year-olds who, want these products. So it's a perfect fit.
Sure.
And so there's affiliate marketing as well. There is making your own courses. There's memberships. There's consulting, as I mentioned. Yes, there are ads. That's a whole rabbit hole in itself. But
Yep.
there are people who are making money from the ad platforms. So YouTube does pay you commission when they play ads on your videos. And that one's good. However, I've seen that that's not sustainable revenue unless you're getting like
Millions
of views.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that depends on everyone's monthly expenses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, it's funny because I've been posting on YouTube for over 2 years, and we're just now getting through the monetization limits. We're like gonna pass it in the next couple of weeks, but then it's like, then you're only making a couple bucks per video, but then it really picks up. But so my podcast, let's talk about that for a minute, right? Like the podcast is good. I know the content is good. But as we've talked about, what I've learned from you and why I know that you're such a badass at this, you're so good at this, is because you're able to look at what we're doing, and you do channel reviews on your YouTube channel, which we're going to link below. Go follow her. And if you have a YouTube channel, have her do a breakdown of your channel live on her show. But you did a breakdown of mine. And one thing that you brought up about my podcast was the thumbnail and title, right? You had mentioned that, look, the things that matter the most are first the thumbnail, then the title, and then the first things that they watch in the video. Can you kind of talk about how that's so important? Because I think that a lot of people jump to getting a good camera and maybe having decent editing, but then they don't really think of the thumbnail or the title, which is the most important, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so to answer that, people need to realize that they're not so much working with an algorithm. They are working with human psychology, because the algorithm understands the psychology of a viewer on YouTube, and they are going to favor that. And so when it comes to YouTube, psychologically, when someone opens up YouTube, whether they're opening up the homepage or they're searching for something, the first thing that's going to catch their attention is the thumbnail, because it's visual, it's colorful, there's so many, so it stands out. So the first part is the thumbnail. And then you want to have a good thumbnail and title combination, because the brain will look at the thumbnail, and then if it's appealing, it will then read the title. And so for the title, you actually want two components in that. You want something that's search-based, something with keywords that your target audience is typing in, but you also want to have a level of intrigue. So for example, I have this one video on my channel that says, I chased my entrepreneurial dreams. This is what happened. And so I was targeting a broader audience, but entrepreneurial, that's a keyword.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what happened. It's like, oh, what happened? Click. And then they watch.
Got it.
And so YouTube only cares about two things. Do people click, and do people watch? They will click because of, yes, the thumbnail, yes, the title, but also if the topic is of interest. There's a fourth one too, to establish an emotional connection. So if I like Kevin, and I just see a picture of his face, there's no text or anything, but I want to reconnect with Kevin, I'm going to click on the video.
Right.
So that's one piece. Do people click? Now, the other piece is, do people watch? Let's say you get a bunch of people clicking your video. Let's say you nail those first four pieces. If nobody's watching your video, if people are clicking off after the first 10 seconds because you didn't hook them in, then YouTube's not going to push it out. So it really comes down to making good content. It sounds so simple, but once you master making good content and holding attention, getting people to engage, you've nailed it.
So when it comes down to like picking a content type to put out, what do you have to say about people? Like for me, right? Like I know that content is really good, but without the strategy, you kind of just are shooting in the dark. So we have the podcast. I started out shooting a variety of content, like interviews, podcasting, all over the board, but then also shooting videos like, here's how to make money online. Here's how to do this. And really my audience is just, if somebody clicked and subscribed and then they saw my next video, it was just, why would I do that? It's like, just didn't make sense. So for somebody to figure out what they should post, right? Like, I know I want to do YouTube. I know that X is my thing, but what do I post? How do I get this message out there?
That's a really good question. And so there does come a point when you do want to be known as the expert in something, because I mentioned in the beginning that yes, you want to go broad in the beginning to understand, okay, what do I like? What's the content style that I like? It's funny because at that Gary Vee event, if you remember, he was like, play around with different formats. He was like, if all your videos look exactly the same, it's time to change it up.
Yeah.
So if all your videos are
And
against
they're
a
not
white wall,
performing, right?
yeah,
Like,
if they're all against a white wall, change it up. Maybe try your hands. Maybe try filming videos in the car. Some of mine are super raw and unedited at the beach.
yep.
And so that format can be flexible, but you still want there to be just something that you're known for. Like when people think of Kevin, what do you want them to think of?
Yeah.
And so that's when you niche down. So I said go broad at first, but then niche down. Once you become known the expert in something, then you can go broad again. So let's think of someone like, let's say Lewis Howes.
Sure.
He was super niched. In the beginning, he was talking about LinkedIn. He was the LinkedIn guy.
Really?
Yes. I don't know if
I
you knew
did
that.
not know that. I just know him from just podcasting.
He was all about LinkedIn. However, when people started to subscribe to him, when he had an audience and people didn't just want to know about LinkedIn, they liked Lewis.
Because
Then
he played professional football in Canada and he did a bunch of stuff. So
yeah, he did a bunch of stuff.
yeah.
But he was able to go broad because he was known as something. And now he could talk about anything.
Right.
He could talk about any topic, health, wealth, finances, relationships, anything. And people will tune in because he's Lewis Howes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think Elon Musk is a good advice. He can make a statement about a cryptocurrency or about anything, and it literally shifts the markets because of a personal brand. I think a personal brand is so important in today. I mean, look, your personal brand is literally just your reputation in a space where people spend time, and people didn't spend time on the internet before, which is why it wasn't a thing. But now that our lives are on our phones, now we have to kind of get our message out a different way. So it's a pretty cool opportunity. Would you call it a gold rush, or is it too late for content?
It is not too late for content. Think of it this way. Humans created a new world. We have the physical world and we have the digital world. The digital world isn't going away.
The metaverse.
So yes, you want to master the digital world, and it's not too late to do that. However, don't forget about the physical world. What about in-person stuff? What about
Like
going
Gary
to
Vee.
events?
Look at how we met.
Look at how we met. I love that, by the way. Organic.
And that comes down to the one word that I love hearing Gary talk about all the time, which is community.
Yes.
So how do you build a community? How do you drive not just people to watch the video, but then to engage on the video, to leave comments, and then to go to other platforms and then start to create literally your own ecosystem? Like Gary Vee posted online, and I know my friend Jeff, who hosted the event, posted about it a few days before, but it wasn't like a heavily marketed event. So it just shows the power of a personal brand. Gary's like, yo, I'm going to be here at this time, show up. And hundreds of people, probably 200 people were there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so with that, how do you get people to engage with you? It really comes down to, and we were talking about this a little bit beforehand, it does come to just getting people to resonate with you, the person. A lot of people on YouTube, they're stuck in what I call left brain delivery mode. Oh, I got to follow this script. I need to, give this information, and it's all left brain. But they're forgetting the other elements.
And by left brain, you mean like structured, orderly,
logical, non-creative, technical.
Okay.
The right brain is more fluid, more creative, more you. It's funny, one time I got on a consultation with this gentleman, and he was like, I want to teach people how to live their best life, how to be happy. We're on a Zoom. And I watched his videos. He was never smiling. But when I was talking to him in person, he was funny, he was smiling, and I'm just like, you need to be this way in your content. And the light bulb went off, and he was like, you're right. And so to get people connected to you and your personal brand, you need to be more yourself.
Right.
And again, that's why I go by Ari The Creator, because it really is, yes, it's a content creation journey, but it's also a personal development journey. It's being more of who you are. I think a lot of people are a watered down version of themselves.
Yes. Online, you're saying? Or
just
on
in
video?
general. Just in general.
Okay.
Like maybe they've been
like how they present themselves to other people, or
like they're a watered down version. Like maybe they've been going to a 9-to-5, and maybe they're like the super vibrant personality, but like they've been doing something that they're not passionate about, and so they're not like Yeah.
That's deep. That's really deep. And
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
And do you think that people feel watered down?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think people feel
Mm,
very hurt. And I think that's the dark side of YouTube. A lot of people come to YouTube to hurt others because hurt people hurt people.
the comments and stuff.
Yeah, like comments and stuff.
Yeah.
And so those people you need to ignore. So going back to the point, to build a personal brand, you got to ignore that stuff. Let your audience do the defending for you. Ignore it. Do not let it get to you. That will destroy you. And so what you want to do is make yourself likable, but also make yourself accessible. And so, for example, I do those live channel reviews where I'm
Yes.
going live, I'm sharing my screen, I'm critiquing people's channels, but we're also talking in the comments if they're present. Like we're talking and I'm asking them questions and they're responding, and we're building that rapport, we're building that connection. And then if I launch something, hey, I'm doing this online event, even if I'm doing an in-person event and they can make it,
Yeah.
they're going to want to come. And so it's really like it's building a relationship with people, and it's also being able to sustain it. Sometimes we fall off the track with our consistency. I know I did. Like I visited home about 2 weeks ago and I wanted to be present with my grandparents because, they're getting older. And so I wasn't as consistent on YouTube, but it's okay because you always fall off the track, but you always got to get back on track.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck in left brain. They think, oh, I need to be perfect. If I don't post every Monday at 3 p.m., the algorithm is going to punish me. That's not the case.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
Yeah, because the thing is with our podcasting, we see people shoot podcasts, and they're like, hey, every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Central or whatever, right? And
Mhm.
I'm like, fuck, like, do we need to do that? Or because I just kind of shoot them whenever we have a good conversation.
Yeah, and you can absolutely still be consistent. YouTube is like a show. So if it's like, oh, every Wednesday at 9, then it's like, oh, I always know to tune in. I'm just saying, don't beat yourself up
Yeah.
if you can't make that deadline.
But at the same time, you got to have some kind of consistency, right?
Yes.
Like if you stop posting for 6 months and then wonder why your channel's not growing much, unless you got a pop in video. But yeah, okay, cool. So if somebody's just getting started on YouTube, is camera and mic really important, lighting important, or should they just start putting out content?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So you do want to have decent audio, you want to have a decent lighting, and you want to have a decent camera because people will click off of a video if they can't understand it, they can't see you. And so you do want to have a degree of that, but
Okay.
do you need to go out and spend money on this fancy microphone? No. The camera in your pocket likely works well. If it doesn't, if maybe it's damaged, then yes, you can invest in even just like a simple little microphone on Amazon. I think mine was like $12.
Yeah,
But it
and it's
works
good
good.
actually.
Yeah.
I was watching one of your videos where you had the lavalier mic.
That was $12.
I was like, hey, that audio is really good.
Yeah, people get really lost in those details of, oh, fancy camera, oh, fancy mic.
Yep.
But it's really the right brain being more of who you are, coming from a good place that will help you to help you grow a business and help you achieve your goals.
So how does somebody be vulnerable? Because if you're being yourself and in any good relationship, like friendships or whatever, a breakthrough moment in a relationship is usually out of a spot of vulnerability, right? Maybe you're there for a friend in a challenging time. Maybe you experience a loss with somebody else or whatever it may be. How do you find that balance of like giving an insight and a little bit of vulnerability, but not overexposing yourself? Because I think a lot of people are afraid to get hurt by exposing themselves and being vulnerable.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm glad that you asked because that's something that's holding a lot of people back. Like when they're on camera, it's kind of like they have this wall built up.
Yeah.
And what you want to do is, I always talk about on my channel the hero's journey. And so if you don't know, there is a hero with a problem, and they meet a guide who has a plan, who guides them on a journey that either leads to success or failure. Practically all the movies follow that framework. And so a lot of people on YouTube position themselves as the hero. However, what you want to do is you want to position yourself as the guide. And so what you want to do is you can still talk about your story of, hey, like I went through these problems, this is what I've learned, but you always want to do it in a way to where you're giving insights. You're helping the viewer as well. So when you're being vulnerable, you could be like, yeah, I totally struggled with this. It was hard. However, this is where I am now, and this is my bigger mission, and this is how I'm helping people. And so I think when it comes to being vulnerable, I think it does come down to letting go, surrendering, letting go of the ego. We were talking about that. Letting go of the ego and just remembering, hey, I'm a human being. and I went through these problems, and it's okay, and I embrace that.
Right.
Like, you need to really embrace that, like, as much as you can.
God, this is so good. This is the amount of golden nugget value that is in this is just phenomenal. Oh my gosh. For the people that don't click on this video, I feel bad.
Yeah.
Anyways, keep going. Sorry.
Um,
That's going to be in the intro for sure.
yeah. I lost my flow.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
That's good. It's good. It's a good intro.
So vulnerability, right? People
Yeah.
being vulnerable. And yeah, it's funny because you mentioned that sometimes people, the camera turns on and they're a different person, which is like, if I'm hanging out with you, right, and we're having a good conversation, I'm like this, and all of a sudden I'm like this. Hello. Like, you know, people do that because they get nervous and their mind, you had brought up the ego, the mind goes somewhere else. And when I first started, it's funny, I look at the podcast from the very first episode that Donald and I shot, and we tried to keep it pretty, you know, like ourselves, and we didn't really have any expectations, but there was still this like firmness. Like I sat like an Egyptian like cat, you know, just like with my hands like this. And I just thought it was like so like stuffy, and I felt like I wasn't like that. But if I can see that, then other people, their first impression of me is that, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you said that, because everyone listening, do not expect your first video to be perfect. Don't expect yourself to be this best version of you where you're perfect and you're being perfectly vulnerable, like the perfect expert. We're not striving for perfection. We're striving for imperfect action. And so what I recommend is, when you're posting your videos, like, still put them out there even if they're not perfect. But I do recommend having someone critique it for you. Someone who has your best interest, who will tell you if the video's not good, they're going to tell you this is not a good video.
Right.
And so even myself, like, I've been doing this for a while, but I'm not perfect. I recently had one of my mentors and also my boyfriend look at some of my past videos, and they were just like, no, you're really good, but there was like just certain parts in there where they said you could have been more flowy, or you're a little stiff, or when it came to the call to action, it seemed a little bit too salesy. I was like, yeah, that's really good advice. Thank you. And so I carry that on, but I also have the opposite. Like, what was good about the video? And in one of my videos where I talked about how YouTube changed my life with 3,000 subscribers, I was talking about the lessons, I was talking about my story, and someone pointed out, I really liked when you talked about your bigger mission of wanting to donate money to the oceans.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a big ocean nerd.
Hell yeah,
That's why I meant
that's
to bring
what's
out
up.
these water bottles. And so when someone pointed it out, oh my God, I loved that section when you were just talking about the oceans and your passion. And I even looked in my YouTube studio and there was a spike at that part.
Really?
Yeah. And so it works both ways. So when you post content, ask someone, say, what did you like? What didn't you like? And that will give you really good feedback, so that the next time you create a video, you keep those in mind. Making videos is like getting your reps in.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting your reps and you're getting stronger and stronger. You can never reach ultimate strength,
Right.
at least from my knowledge. But
I don't know. You should have seen the guy that was just in here. He was pretty strong.
yeah, the point in the world of YouTube, you can always get better and better.
Right.
There's always more to do. There's always more to create. There's always more to achieve. And so that's why I see it. So all of you listening, try to find that person. Find that person who will give you honest feedback. You know, my mom will always say, your videos are great. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, right?
You know, so you need someone who's really going to tell you how it is.
Yeah, I really like that you have that kind of somebody that's standing back, because let's just use it as a reference from like baseball. If you're hitting, right, you may think that your swing is perfect, but then somebody who can stand back and maybe knows what they're talking about and knows you can say, hey, put your back foot a little further forward and make this adjustment with your hands or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's really important to have a coach in anything you do, whether it's YouTube, business, life, a relationship, having somebody that can objectively and honestly look from the outside in and tell you, hey, this is what I would change if I were you. But also you said looking at the positive side too, like what'd you do well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
All right. So how long does it take to make some money on YouTube? Like how long does it take from somebody starting to actually making money? And I know that's going to vary, but.
Yeah, of course that will vary. And to really give it a metric, it really comes down to, do you believe that you can make money fast? I worked with clients where they joined my coaching, my mentorship, and they said, yeah, this is great, but I don't have any like goals to make money with this. Like, I'm just going to do it for fun. Like, I don't plan to make money. And so there's a quote that whether you think you can or you can't,
You're right.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you don't think you can earn income, but also make that impact fast, you're right. You're right. But the vice versa is true. And so one of my clients, she started posting on YouTube. So she had a fresh channel when we started. And she was at 60 subscribers when she got her first $3,000 paying client from YouTube.
Right.
60 subscribers. And that is because she believed it, but also she was putting out really good energy. So she had that right brain activation
Yeah.
combined with the left brain analytical. Click the link down below, making sure the link works, all the buttons work on the page. So she had both. Boom.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So she's following a system and
Yes.
a formula that works.
Yep. But she's also being herself.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So I've actually seen, because YouTube, if you don't know, is the second biggest search engine. Is it
And
right?
YouTube
It's
is-
Google and then YouTube.
Yeah.
Which
YouTube
owned
is
by-
second, and then yes, Google.
Yeah. So it's the second biggest search engine. So for example, if you're a real estate agent, right? I've seen that successful real estate agents post videos on like what to look for when moving to Dallas or San Diego or whatever. And they're capturing people who are thinking about moving there, which then they can, have a call to action of like fill out a form, book a call, talk to my team, whatever. Right. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's great. And what I recommend is if you're going to use YouTube to get people on the phone, I would recommend having some type of application or some type of form for them to fill out so that you're just not getting on the phone with anyone. And so when I see that, it also shows that you respect your time. Because if you just let anyone book through a calendar link, it shows, oh, like he's just giving his time away for free.
Yeah.
But if you have like an application, like apply for a free call or fill out this form first, it shows that you're assessing to make sure that they are a qualified lead,
Right.
so that you're not wasting your time.
Or theirs too, if you're going to get on a call and then 5 minutes later tell them, hey, I can't help you.
Yes, exactly. So it's a win-win.
So what do you see as the best way to generate leads with YouTube?
That's a really great question. So long form video, definitely. So they say, I think even Gary mentioned this, that you need, the number varies, but around like 8 to 12 hours of someone listening to your content in order for them to really know, like, and trust you to the point that they're willing to pull out their credit card.
Right.
And so, yes, you can make shorts. However, think of how many shorts you would need to reach those 8 to 12 hours.
Right.
A lot. And so long form video wins.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do recommend that you have a combination of different formats. So yes, doing long form. You can also make shorts based off of that lead to the long form by making it a related video so that people can click the button.
Yep.
Also, I do recommend people really underestimate the value of the community tab.
Okay.
On YouTube.
Like posts,
Yes.
text.
So the
and
community
picture
tab, yep,
posts.
you can create polls, quizzes, you can do posts. People really undervalue that because think about it. Like, let's say you have 30,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
They're not all actively engaged with you.
Right.
They're just subscribed, but they don't like see anything. And so the community tab is just a good way to start re-engaging people.
Really?
So doing quizzes, doing polls, just doing updates. It also builds that emotional connection as well. So to answer your question, I would recommend a variety of different formats. Even going live. Going
Right.
live is a good
Yeah.
one.
And you talked today about going live in
Yeah.
shorts, which we'll circle back to. But one thing that I've noticed is we have 30, what are we at? 3,250 or something subscribers on YouTube?
I think it's close to 3K right now.
Okay.
2750.
2,750. Yeah. So we're almost at 3,000 subscribers. And one thing that I've noticed is a lot of our subscribers came from shorts, right? A lot of our shorts do really well. But the thing is, like you're saying, the engagement with that, you don't have a relationship built with them as quick. And maybe they see you consistently. And even if they don't click on the video, they're seeing you and they're subconsciously building a familiarity with you. But how do you re-engage them to get to your long form? Or are they just two different audiences?
No, it's not two different audiences. I've actually had people who discovered me on shorts because usually when I talk to a client or a potential client, I ask them, how'd you come across me? It's even on my application. And I've had people who came from shorts. And so a good way to engage them is linking it to the long form video. But if, let's say someone is mainly like a shorts fan, then keep engaging them with more shorts.
Right.
But not, again, this comes back to not like the short, like mindless shorts, like really engaging shorts that gets them to think, gets them to leave a comment, gets them to build an emotional connection with you.
I feel like we're about to hit a stride with YouTube, maybe because we have a good guide on our hero's journey. Yeah, no, I mean, your info is so incredibly powerful, and you have a great way of like taking what's a very confusing, noisy, chaotic world and just taking out that quiet, kind of like when we turned the fan off and everything got quiet. You kind of bring this calmness to the conversation of YouTube, which is a very confusing, like, you know, but you break it down into like the simple human psychology of it, which I come from the advertising space. I understand, like, you know, when an ad is there, you know, when you're running an ad and you're building an ad, the picture or whatever the creative is on the ad is going to hook them. And then the text and the first bit of the text is really important. And then you have to kind of hit their pain points and like pull them in. I don't know why I never thought of YouTube as the same thing. Like it makes sense. Somebody is going and click, you know, I just thought, I don't know, man, you just post and you go viral and you get lucky and, you know, it's hit or miss and you just got to just direct action, you know? But so if you have any tips for me right now with my channel and my audience, what tips do you have?
This is a really big tip for you. And you actually might be doing this already. So you have a very big opportunity to cross-pollinate. So these people that you're bringing on, before you bring them on, and actually you're not doing this because you didn't do it with me.
Okay.
Before you bring people on, I would ask them, like, how do you plan to promote this to your audience after the podcast?
Nice.
And I would even give them like some template or some type of checklist. Like if you have an Instagram story, post it on your Instagram story, maybe repost it on your channel. Do you have an email list? How big is it? I would bring people on who can promote you.
Yeah.
So that you can cross-pollinate. That is the biggest leverage that you have.
Right.
Yeah. So that happened to me. So I actually interviewed a very successful client of mine. She was pregnant and she invested all her money into me. 3 weeks, she was going to have a baby. Invested all her money. She was very brave. And in that first week, we made $3,000. And then by the end of the third week, we made $10,000. And so she did a podcast, but beforehand, I was like, let's do a podcast. But I was like, but here's the plan. You're going to post it on your Instagram story. You're going to post it on your YouTube community tab. What else? You're going to send it out to your email list. And she did all of that.
Yeah.
And leverage. My audience grew like hundreds of subscribers in a day.
Really?
Yes.
And she had a big channel, or
She had about 15,000 subscribers.
But highly engaged, it sounds
Yes.
like.
Yes.
And what's her niche? What does she do?
So she helps people to move abroad and to also establish an income. So like digital nomad style.
Damn, that's a good niche.
Yep. And so when you do that, you have to make sure that the audiences align.
I was going to say
her audience aligned with mine.
Yeah, that's
because
perfect.
digital nomads, of course, they want to do YouTube. You know, a lot of them do. And so, but if I...
And obviously you and her click, right? Because she signed up with you. So there's a level of trust. And if her audience clicks with her, they're probably going to click with you.
I got so many leads.
Yeah.
From that.
That's cool. And good leads too. I bet.
Leads.
Like the right. Yeah.
Yep. Paying me every month.
Yeah. That's cool.
That is my biggest piece of advice for you.
Okay. Okay. So, Ari, let me ask you, how do you plan to promote this to your audience?
Yes. So I have 2 Instagrams. I'll post it on there. I have a very highly engaged Facebook community because the events I went to for business, a lot of them preferred Facebook.
Right.
And so I will promote it on Facebook. I have an email list. I have close to 3,000 contacts. I will post it on my community tab. I can even just repost the footage on my channel as well.
Sure. Yeah. We send the raw data or the raw video to everybody. So
Perfect.
You can take and do whatever fits your channel.
There you go.
All right. So thank you, by the way. So I want to dive into something. You had a situation with a YouTuber. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, let's talk about it. Let's name him first. What's his name?
I don't think we should.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. No.
So let's talk about what happened though, and I want to talk about kind of how you approached this because it was a challenge and there was some risk involved with this. So,
yes. I'm glad you brought this up because the reason I'm bringing this up is, and I even created a video all about it, and Carlos will link it. It's all about how I fought false copyright claims. So what happened was I had basically a competitor. I'll give it a second. I didn't want the flow to get interrupted, so I'll pick up on that sentence.
Yeah, Carlos, just remember to cut this part.
Yeah. Okay, so what happened was that how should I even say this? I'm trying to go about this in the right way. I'm glad you brought this up, and now I gotta think of how I want to do this.
I know we kind of
ethically.
talked about discussing it, but I was like,
Yeah.
not sure before. But I'm like, no, let's dive
Yeah, no, I'm
into
glad
it.
you said that.
Yeah.
I just want to think of the best way. Okay, so what happened was, and by the way, I do encourage all of you, one really good YouTube strategy is to review other products in your niche. So think of your target audience and think if they're in buying mode, they're going to be looking up products to try to solve their problem. And so this can be physical products, this can even be books that you review. And it's a good approach because, and do this ethically, you want to do it in a way to where, you know, you're stating the pros and cons, what you liked, what you didn't. Don't just totally bash a product and then recommend yours instead. And so I took this approach. I was very ethical with reviewing another product in my niche that so happened to be someone in my niche who was taking a different approach to what I do. So I do YouTube organic marketing, but they were promoting YouTube ads.
Okay.
So how to use YouTube ads to basically the same thing, like get people into a funnel and like offer something. And so what I did is I chose to review that product in a very ethical way. I was very even-handed, even in the video, which Carlos will link. People even commented very fair, very even-handed. Like it was, they thought it was crazy that this person did what they did. And so what happened was they didn't like the video. I guess they saw it as a threat. Again, this is where ego comes in. And so
it wasn't a hit job, by the way. It was a very just pure fair comparison, and they took it like it was some kind of...
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what I said.
Yeah.
And I actually took the videos down because I just didn't want that energy anymore.
Yeah.
I had the power to keep them up, but I just took them down. And so what I said was, I was like, you know what? Like, he's teaching this method. He's teaching you how to run paid ads. These are the pros. These are the cons. If this is something you want to do, go for it. Because the method I teach isn't for everyone. I show how to make organic content, how to build an audience. Yes, it takes time. These are the cons. It can take some time, trial and error, but here are the pros. I said, if you would like to take this route, you can consider his product. If you want to check out mine, if you're interested in that route, you can check out my product. And that was it. That was it. There was nothing like negative. There was no slander. There was no defamation. That was it. And so those videos were up for even a year, and they were gaining views. They were bringing me subscribers. But what happened was, long story short, they hired someone to submit false copyright claims to my channel.
To get your channel shut down.
To try to get my channel shut down.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, but it's funny because if you read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's a very powerful book. And so I use the tactics in that book. We'll call him attacker number 2. So I actually saw this attacker. I knew that they were hired for it. So I'm just like, what's up? What's going on? And they were just like, yeah, like I live in Turkey. I don't have a lot of money. They hired me and I need the money to pay my rent. And so I saw that person for how they were. And I just simply explained, like, and it's funny because like, first they were very rude. They were like, if you don't delete the videos, like I'm going to send bots. I'm going to do everything in my power to attack you. You know, I will try to take down your business, blah, 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 all these terrible things. And it's funny because I didn't offend them. I was very cooperative and ethical. And they ended up saying, like, you know, thank you, by the way, for not offending me. And that was a turning point, and that's how I got them to...
Get them on your side, right?
I got them on my side, and this is what happened. I didn't pay them anything. And I was like, do you mind sharing with me the WhatsApp conversation and the bank statements that you received? Because you know what they said? They said, thank you for not offending me. If there's anything that I can do for you, let me know.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yes, send me the bank statements, send me the WhatsApp conversation. And so I actually directly emailed the person behind it, the person whose product I reviewed.
Yep.
I emailed him with the summary. I was like, listen, I have the WhatsApp conversation. I have the bank statements. And I also knew, I guess they hired their buddy to hire someone. And I was like, I also see that this other person was behind this. If you don't stop, I am going to take legal action and I am going to expose you. And they didn't respond. And and that just showed me, like, I have more balls.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a good feeling.
Yeah, no, it is a good feeling. They didn't respond, and I would have, like, we could have just had a mature conversation, but they chose this route, and that just shows me this gentleman is actually my age. He's my age, and yes, he's making a lot of money. He's earning over 7 figures from this product.
Yep.
but that's not sustainable because he is damaging his reputation.
Yep.
He is selling this product to people who it's not a good fit for. Like, I'm talking people who can barely speak English. I'm
Yeah.
talking old ladies who are a bit more gullible. And that is
Yep.
how he's earning his money. It's not people who it's a fit for. He's
Right.
teaching how to run YouTube ads, but
Yep.
he's selling the idea of just with using AI, you can set up an ad and then, money, it's like a money machine.
Yeah.
And that's not totally true.
Yeah, look, if you're looking and reviewing like these courses, I think something that's really important is just looking at the logical side of it, right? Take the emotion out of it, take that side of the brain out and look at the logic and go, if this guy is telling me that he can set up a system that's going to print money, it's going to take only a little bit of money up front but no time, no energy, no nothing. Why isn't he just printing money with it? Like why does he, and I understand like, I have a passion for teaching and this and that. Look at the logic. The guy is all about money, obviously. Why is this guy not going hard on this system? Why is he just sharing it out of the goodness for his heart?
Yeah.
This system will make you millions, but he'll sell it to you for $8,000 or $5,000 or $2,000. Like bullshit. Like follow your gut. Like if something seems off, it's off. And anyways, that's my thoughts on it. And it's so frustrating.
Yeah, and that was my intention as well. I never wanted to bash him. I just wanted to help people make the best decision for themselves and not like, because what do you do when you're considering a product? You're going to look up reviews, and I just wanted to be honest.
Right.
I just wanted to be honest. And no, that was it. And I sent him that email, and I haven't heard anything since. And so, yeah, I mean, now I get to share it with all of you so that you all can carry the lessons.
So you mentioned the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And actually, Jeff Fenster, who we went to the Everbowl event with Gary Vee, Jeff Fenster wrote a book, and it's called The Relationship Bank Account, which is a very similar principle where it just talks about like whenever you're meeting with somebody, you're either depositing or withdrawing into your social bank account between that person. So try to always make deposits, and eventually you can make a withdrawal if you need, but it's not going to feel like you're taking from them. That's just kind of overarching principle of it. But How to Win Friends and Influence People is kind of the roots of that idea. And it's basic human psychology of, you describe what you got from the book. What do you think?
Yeah, so it's funny because that was actually one of the first books I read about personal development. It was actually my second. The first one was Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins, and that was the second one. So I actually read that in high school. And that one, the biggest takeaway that I had was just really how to look at the other person's perspective, how to try to understand the way that they're thinking and try to compromise based on their interests. And also just don't judge too quickly. Like try to put yourself in their shoes and then put yourself back in your shoes and think, how can there be like a compromise, common ground? And that's really how you win someone to your way of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, people like talking about themselves, right? So when you're having a conversation with somebody, and the reason why podcasting works is people want to talk about themselves. They're happy to come on the show because the spotlight is put on them. Not saying it's always like full of ego, like, but naturally we like to be cared about, right? So when you're talking to somebody and you can see their side and you can be empathetic and you can base things around them and not you, what's the quote that David Meltzer always says? Be more interested than interesting. I think is really, really important because you show interest in other people, genuine, not bullshit, because people can smell bullshit. But when you have a genuine interest around people, people appreciate that and the relationship grows. And I think that if everybody had that approach, we'd be in a much better space. I mean, you look at this situation with this person and you look at how you communicated with their attacker, you understood where they were and you didn't attack them back. You didn't feed it with negativity. You really brought a positive light to it. And look at how it's serving you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another really good book, and I talk about this in the video that is going to be linked below, but there's a really good book, and it's so funny because as this was happening, I was actually reading The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and he talks about how the person who attacks first is actually already defeated, and so that's why they attack first. And so the person who first fights, they've actually lost already. And so you can actually, the best way to win is by not fighting back. And so that's exactly what I did. I didn't fight back. I actually showed a lot of love and compassion.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how that person, saw me for me as well. And they actually said, I actually didn't want to do this. I actually really like your content. but I did need the money.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so I was actually I was like, wow, like, I don't know what this person's going through, but it must be really bad,
Yeah.
and is it still wrong? Yes. However, I still saw the person for the person. So
That's funny.
Yeah.
One time, my friend, my friend Dan Fulkerson got his Facebook or his Instagram account hacked, and he's got like 50 something thousand followers, and he's a personal injury attorney and gets a lot of cases through his Instagram. Well, these guys got his account hacked and were trying to get it back, right? And he didn't have like two-factor on, or I don't remember what, but he could not get his account back. And I was messaging with them, and they were like saying, hey, we're going to attack your account too if you don't give us X amount of money. And I was like, just video called him, right? Like, he maybe won't answer. But the guy answered. He's like, this dude in like Haiti. And he's like, what's up, bro? I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, let's talk. And I tried so hard to get him like on my side, and he came so close. I'm like, bro, like, what, how was your childhood? Like, what do you really need? Like, let's talk about this. Karma, and like brought all that. He was like, yeah. And I'm like, so you want to just give my buddy's account back? And he's like, no. And we didn't end up getting it back right away. Eventually we did, but I even sent the guy like $300 because I was like, or 200, whatever it was. Cause I was like, well, it's a good risk. If my buddy gets it back, I'm sure he'd be happy. And it's not that, I'm not going to miss the $200 that much, but, yeah, it was just so funny trying to see their side, but in this case, it did not work.
Yeah, no, it didn't work. And that's a funny story right there. But yeah, I mean, you are right though that there is a karma behind it. I truly believe it. I think whatever you put out, if it's negative, it's gonna come back and bite you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've even experienced that in my own life. I've actually learned that at a very early age, that if you lie, if you steal, that's always gonna come back. And so that was one of my first hard lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that sucks is that you don't know when it's coming back. But what I know about life is when you're a good person and you have good intentions and you do so without the goal of getting something back. Like anytime I look at like when I've mentored somebody, just because I wanted to see them do well, it always comes back tenfold. Like the Bible talks about, you reap what you sow, right? Or, there's a million different principles around it, but when you're putting good energy out there, it will find its way back to you. And it is almost like it balances out equally every time. And, anytime it's funny, there's been so many times where I've gone to sign up a customer and I'm just like, this person is not a good fit, or this person, it maybe is a good fit, but not right now because they're not financially in a place because this service takes time or whatever. Anytime that I've taken the time to like help them and just point them in the right direction or something, one, they appreciate it, but it always seemed to come back inadvertently. Like they'll refer me to somebody, or that next day I get a surprise, invoice paid, or I don't know, just whatever, right? The universe is funny, and I think we should have good intentions no matter what.
Yeah, and that actually ties back into YouTube because it applies for YouTube as well. If you're putting out good stuff, if you have good intentions, that will come back. But like you said, you don't know when, but you really do need to have that trust that it will. And sometimes you might not see it. So if you watch like the movie It's a Wonderful Life, like he ends up dying and he sees like all the impact that he's made. I believe that it's that way for YouTube as well. Like maybe when we die, we'll see like the impact that our channel has made. But one client of mine, she does her YouTube, but she also does like in-person events for her niche. And she said that at this event, this woman came up to her and she was just like, you saved my life, because I was going through a very rough time in my life. I was suicidal, but your daily vlogs were just so cheerful and it kept me going. And she wasn't even talking about anything. She was in the knitting niche. She makes a lot of money from knitting.
Yeah.
And she was talking about knitting, and she was all joyful, cheerful herself, talking about knitting. And that kept someone going because she was coming from a good place. She had a good heart. She was being herself. And she was lucky to hear it from this woman. Right. She actually ran into this woman at an event, and she recognized her from YouTube.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Impact.
Yes. Impact. So it works both ways. If you have good intentions, it will come back. Because how fulfilling is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh wow. Like, and it's funny because you never know the impact of your YouTube channel. There's people who just watch, they don't leave comments, but you've made an impact on them. The opposite is true. If you have bad intentions, even if you outside of YouTube, even if you try to take down someone's account,
Yeah.
is going to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Period.
Funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Mhm.
Well, all right. Where can people connect to you? And we're going to put all of your stuff in the description. So no matter where you're watching or listening to this, go to the description. You're going to be able to find Ari the Creator and all of her links. But where should people connect with you? How do they get in touch? And maybe if they want to work with you?
Yeah, so definitely check out my YouTube. I have hours of free content on there where I'm just giving value. Feel free to ask me questions in the comments, or you could even DM me on Instagram, Facebook. Just look up Ari the Creator. If you do want me to audit your YouTube channel, there's a link down below and you can sign up for free. So you can just sign up for that and I will review your channel. Currently, I have 64 people in the queue, so it might be a little bit of time before I get to yours, but I will get to it. And so you can check that out. I'm on everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Ari the Creator.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm so glad that we stood next to each other in line and randomly this came to be. It's just so funny how things happen. And also, if you don't start a conversation with somebody, like, how many connections do you miss? You know, one of my friends used to say, Kevin, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. And when I was younger, and I was like, why? Like, I don't know. People just come into your life that want to help you and all these things. It's like, well, look at what I do and then look at what you do. Like, you're kind of quiet, introverted. Not you. I'm just saying this person. This person is very quiet and introverted and doesn't really have many conversations. They're just reserved, right? But that stops the possibilities from opening up on these conversations, right? You talk to somebody on an airplane and then they connect you with somebody who you partner in business with down the road. Or just little things like that come into play, and they don't start until you start, just like a YouTube channel.
Yeah, and that's the power in social media. Either use it or let it use you. So either let it suck up hours, or you can use it, build real connections, and that leads to opportunities in real life. So even just letting people know what you're doing, what you're up to, what you're striving for, that's where opportunities come in. So you want to keep your doors open, let people know, and that's when things will come back.
That's amazing. If you can leave our audience with one last positive message, what is it?
One last positive message. So wherever you are, just ask yourself, what do I need to do to get to that next level? What is the next step that you need to take? Because we talked about a lot of information on this podcast, and I know that it can be overwhelming, and sometimes people get lost in analysis paralysis. They end up doing nothing. But just start with one step. Start messy, start imperfect, and then take another step. And then take another step. And before you know it, you're going to be like, holy crap, I've gotten so far. Even before this, Kevin was telling me about his old studio, and he was like, wow, I've gotten so far. Me, myself, I started this in my college dorm room, and I'm like, wow, look at how far I've gotten. So keep taking those imperfect, messy steps, but also remember every now and then to look back and be like, oh shit, I've gotten far. We both did that today.
Yeah.
So start taking those steps and just be proud of yourself for how far you've come. That's what I leave people with.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate
my pleasure.
it.
Thank you, Kevin. All right.